Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. I have a unique video for you here today. For the past few weeks, I've been working on a new round of updates for my charity store. This is an eBay store that I started up last year, and basically what I do is I round up all my review units, then I put them up for auction. About 50% of those proceeds will usually go to a charity of my choice, and then the rest of the money will go towards like taxes and shipping and fees, and then a little bit of that money goes to my wife as well because she's the one that packages all this stuff together. Now, as you may have heard, on the island of Maui last month, there was a terrible fire. Over 100 people died, and about 1,000 people lost their homes and their businesses, and so the island itself is really hurting. And so what I'm going to do in this round of charities is that 100% of the proceeds are going to go to the Maui Food Bank. Now, we spent a lot of time thinking about which charity to give to, and we settled on the food bank because they have a really high rating on the charity kind of rating score, but then also, $1 donated equals about 4 meals that they can provide for those in need. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm bringing this up in a video about handheld PCs. Well, I kind of consider this to be a good opportunity to look at all the various devices that I have, both the review units and the ones that I've bought, and make an assessment of which ones I actually use and could keep, and what are the other ones that I could auction off in order to benefit others. Now, to my surprise, over the past couple years, I've accumulated over 20 of these handheld PCs. Most of them are prototypes and review units, but some of them, I bought myself. Now, I don't play a lot of these because, I spent a lot of time making videos and doing testing and whatnot, and so I really wanted to whittle that down to the ones that I actually use and then donate the rest. In this video here, what we're going to talk about are the ones that I decided to keep and why. Now, it's not quite as cut and dry as that. It's a little bit complicated given the fact that I run a YouTube channel, and so because of that, I have to keep some around for testing, but all the same, I was able to whittle it down to a much smaller number, and that's what I want to go over here in this video. Now, this isn't going to be a full-on review of each of these devices. It would be way too long of a video, and I've already made reviews over each of them. This is really just going to touch on each of the devices I chose to keep and why. There's a lot of things that are great about any of them, but these ones in particular are definitely keepers in my book. Now, the thing about these handheld PCs is that they are ridiculously expensive compared to other options on the market. And so because of that, I really only expect people to have maybe one, if two, maybe if they're crazy, and that's really about it. And so what I'm hoping in this video here is it'll help you whittle it down by seeing my absolute favorites and why I chose to use them. Anyway, I'm trying to keep this as short as possible, and I'm sure it's going to be a long one. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and start. Okay, to start, I want to talk about some of the handhelds I am keeping around but don't actually plan on using. These are mostly going to be used for testing, as well as like size and weight comparisons with other devices that'll be coming in the future. The first of those will be the Anbernic Win 600. This is unique because it's one of the very few budget handheld PCs, in the sense that you can buy it for like under $400. Now, this isn't a great handheld, I've done a bunch of videos about it, but all the same, I want to keep this just as a reference point for how things get better in the future in the budget handheld PC space. Next up, we have the Loki models. I have 3 of these all together, and I'm going to be keeping 2 of them. The first one is my Loki Max. This is a 6800U model that I bought myself. I love the white color on this, and so I'm going to keep this one around just to kind of give it some more testing, but I do have the review unit of the 6800U, the black model, which I will be putting out for charity. The other one I'm keeping around is the Loki Zero. This is also a budget mini PC, and there's an upgraded version called the Loki Mini Pro coming out soon, and so I want to do a comparison against those. Now, the last device that I'm keeping, but probably won't play very often, is this one, the Ayaneo Air Pro from last year. What makes this one unique is that it is very easy to boot from the SD card. This is really handy for me when I'm doing testing with custom Linux firmwares. So something like Batocera or Jealous will boot right up on this little device, and so it makes it really easy for testing. Unfortunately, some of the more recent Ayaneo devices are very hard to boot from the SD card. So yes, when it comes to testing, I will be keeping this one around, but when it comes to actual gameplay, I use a different Ayaneo Air device if I want something very small, and it's this one right here, the Ayaneo Air 1S. I just reviewed this one a few weeks ago, but I really like it for a couple different reasons. Number one, it uses the 7840U chip inside, so the most recent processor that we have for these devices, and the thing I like about that is that it's a very efficient chip. This device is not very good at heat dissipation, and so you don't want to get it too hot, so you don't want to play like AAA games. However, when you play like those more low-tier games, this thing actually stays nice and cool. And it's super small, which I really appreciate. I actually forgot to put it in my thumbnail earlier today because this thing is so small that I left it in my backpack and I forgot to grab it. And that's just kind of a testament to how small this thing actually is. Now, I am keeping one other small device to actually use, and it's this one right here, the GPD Win 4. This is one that I bought myself from their Indiegogo campaign. There's a few reasons why I like using this one. Number one, it has this slide-up keyboard thing, which I talk about all the time, but this is actually a game changer when it comes to using a Windows-based handheld. There are many like Windowsy things that you have to do with some of these, and it can be a pain if you have to put in like a username or password, which by the way is super easy on this compared to those other devices that don't have a keyboard. So I really like that function. The other part is the look of it. I love the fact that it looks like a PSP or a PlayStation Vita, and it also has like a nice compact size and feel to it. I like the heft and the weight to this one. The other thing about it is that it feels really nice to play certain types of games. I actually enjoy using this for like first-person shooter games. The only main complaint I have about this one is that it also will get hot if you push it too far. And so even though I love playing Destiny 2 on this, I don't do it too often, like never more than like 20 minutes at a time, just because it'll get so hot. Now, granted, I live in Hawaii, and so heat is always an issue. It's super humid and hot here all the time. But, you know, depending on where you live, you might not mind that. It might be a nice hand warmer. Either way, when it comes to smaller handhelds, I'm keeping two of them. It's the iNeo Air 1S and then the GPD Win 4. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I am keeping a couple of the bigger handhelds. The first one among those is going to be this one here, the AOK Zoe A1 Pro. This one also has a 7840U chip inside of it, like the iNeo Air 1S, so it's top of the line when it comes to specs. The thing is, this one has an 8 or 8.5 or something. It's a huge screen. I don't even know at that point. I can't even count that high. Either way, it's got a big screen, and I love that. And it also is pretty ergonomic as well. So if I do want to play Destiny 2 and I've just kind of run through my 20 minutes on the GPD Win 4, this one is also a great alternative. Because the screen's so big, you can see more things. This is going to be really great for role-playing games, things like that as well. The other reason why I'm keeping this one is because my 14-year-old son really likes using bigger handhelds. One of the devices I'm auctioning off in the charity is the OneXFly 2. That's a bigger handheld that has detachable controls. But my son actually prefers this one over the OneXFly 2, and so we're going to keep this one around in case we go on a trip or whatever and he wants to bring a handheld with him. I'm going to let him bring the Big Bertha, which is this A1 Pro. Now, another device that I'm keeping around is the iNeo 2S. I'm auctioning off a couple others with the same model, but this is the one I'm keeping because it has the best chipset inside. It's the 7840U, again, like with the other ones. But the other thing I like about it is that it has this all glass panel here on the front, and this makes for some really good comparisons with other handheld PCs that are coming to the market. So I'm only keeping one of these among the like Geek and the two models that have the same kind of form factor, and this is the one I'm keeping. This one has a higher resolution display, and so I like that as well. It's kind of like a luxury handheld, and so I do want to keep this one around just to kind of look at what it's like at that very top tier. Now, we've talked about the small handhelds I'll be keeping, and that's mostly going to be for lightweight gaming and for shorter sessions, and then also the bigger ones. That's going to be when I want that AAA or luxury experience. Now, though, there's a middle ground there, and there's one device in particular that I thought of keeping, and that's the OneXFly. Now, I reviewed this one about a month ago, and there's a few reasons why I'm keeping it. Number one, I like the controls on this. I think it is really ergonomically made. In fact, it doesn't feel like a compromise when I'm playing it, which cannot be said about a lot of the other handheld PCs in the market. The other thing that kind of is making me keep it is that it has RGB lighting with RGC embedded into it, so Retro Game Core. And they did that personally for me as like my review unit. This one is just a prototype, but all the same, I just think it's really kind of neat and nostalgic to have my name on it. I've been thinking about it and what happens like 30 years from now when I'm just old and retired or whatever, and I tell people about my heyday of when I was a retro game like YouTuber or whatever, and I'll be able to say, look, I even had a device that they put my name in it. And so I'm keeping this one around mostly for nostalgic reasons, but it's still fun to play, and it's actually a pretty good handheld. Now, among all the other ones that are available in terms of like price and function, this may not be the best bet that you can get right now, but all the same, because of those little personal touches, I am keeping it around. Now, there are two other handhelds I'm keeping, and it's probably of no surprise to you if you've ever watched any of my other videos, but the reason why I'm keeping these two is because they are my everyday handheld PCs. These are ones that I grab all the time. We'll start with the ROG Ally. Now, this one is unique because I really like it in handheld mode. It's got this nice 120 hertz panel. It's got variable refresh rate. And so I do like playing some games on this when I can take advantage of some of those specs that we have here on the screen. The thing about this one, though, is that it eats through the battery really quickly. What I've done recently is I bought the XG Mobile attachment. That's the external GPU attachment specifically made for ROG devices, including the Ally. Now, the reason why I've been using this so often is because I use it in docked mode. So what I'll do is I'll play this in handheld mode here and there, But for the most time, I actually just kind of put it up on my shelf. I have my XG Mobile hooked up to it, and it becomes my primary PC. And so this is the main PC that I use at my house when I need to play like Windows, like either to play a game, in a high resolution, or if I just need to get some work done on the Windows side. I mostly use Mac, and so I'm mostly on that side. But all the same, when I use Windows, I now use a handheld with an external GPU, and it's this one right here. So I'm definitely keeping this one around. It's one of my primary handhelds. And finally, of course, the Steam Deck is not going anywhere. I'm keeping this thing forever. At this point, you will have to pry it from my cold, dead hands. Now, the way I think about it is that if I'm not sure what I'm going to play, I will usually grab the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally. Both of these have like a ton of games installed on them, and the Steam Deck in particular has like all my emulated systems, but then also like some lightweight and AAA games. So no matter what I'm feeling, I will usually be able to play something pretty good here on the Steam Deck. Same goes with the ROG Ally. I have it all set up and tweaked to perfection, but at the same time, that battery life does give me a little bit of anxiety. The other secret is that because I use the ROG Ally in docked mode so much, I use a special feature that they have there, which will only charge the battery up to 80%. That's going to extend the battery life over time. And because I have it plugged into that dock so often, it's on charge a lot. And so because of that, the battery life on my ROG Ally in particular, and the use case that I have for it, is even smaller. Like I have 80% battery when everyone else had 100%. That also leads me to grab the Steam Deck more and more. And so yeah, in summary, that's basically all I'm keeping among all my different handheld PCs. There were really just 3 types of use cases that really struck me. Number 1 are those smaller devices in that lightweight handheld PC gaming experience, which I think is still a really fun market to play in. It's kind of like having a souped up Nintendo Switch. There's also that really high-end level of the market, those luxury handhelds, the ones that have like a larger screen or maybe a higher resolution or like Hall sensors, all those beautiful things that'll happen when you pay a ton of money. The thing about that though is that I've never bought one of those luxury handhelds myself. These are things that I just get as a review unit, and so that isn't still a very good fit for me because I personally wouldn't invest the money in that. It's just not a really good fit. Instead, for me, I want something right there in that middle ground. And the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, I think, are really good fits in that regard. And of course, among them, the Steam Deck still reigns supreme for me. Now, of course, things are probably going to change here in the future. For example, that Lenovo Legion Go that we're hearing so much about, that one has the opportunity to basically become that luxury experience, but not have a luxury price. And so I'm very interested in that one. I don't think I'm getting a review unit, so I'll just pre-order that one and buy it myself, and then I'll review that here on this channel as soon as it comes. I'm very interested to see if that will knock off like the ROG Ally. Probably not the Steam Deck, but maybe it could do that as well. Either way, I'm pretty excited about that one too. So there you have it. Among all of the handheld PCs that I've tested over the past couple of years, these are the ones I'm keeping and why. Now, all the other ones that I've tested on this channel, for the most part, will be available for auction, like I mentioned here in the beginning of the video. And if you have the means to do so, I would love it if you bid on it. Now, bear in mind, these are like engineering and review samples, so it may not have that full retail experience, but I did spend a lot of time wiping each one of those devices, putting the latest drivers on there, putting the most recent like software firmware on top of it as well. So I did all those things to make sure you have the best experience possible, but all the same, if you're really looking for one of those handhelds, you might be better suited just grabbing one for retail price. Either way, I'll have links to all this stuff down below, including that charity auction that I'm doing right now. It'll last for a week, and then also all the reviews of all the devices that I'm keeping in case you want to learn more about them. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you had to pick just maybe 1 or 2 devices to keep forever, which one would it be? I know everyone's going to say the Steam Deck, but I'd love to hear other opinions as well. As always, thank you for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming.